board for any additional board questions or comments that might have come up as a result.
Okay, yes. You wanna ask Steve?
Yeah. Amanda, I have a question for you. Is this the last day for action on the plan?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Then, Mr. Fisher, I have a question for you, please. Well, I have two questions, actually. Question number one, because we've not had this recorded for tonight, and it is imperative that it be memorialized in writing. Are you able to speak on behalf of the applicant?
Yes.
So any comments you make would be a commitment on the part of the applicant, correct?
Yes.
Good. Number two, in light of everything that we've heard and the data we received from staff and their comments from the community tonight, I have a request of you, and that will determine what direction I move. My question to you is, because the deadline is today, would you be willing to provide an extension of 1 week until next Wednesday night for action on this plan before this board?
Yes.
You are. Okay. Hearing that and having that recorded.
He should write it. He should write that out.
Yes, yeah, that needs to be put in writing. I just the verbal, I know that it's being memorialized, but I would appreciate a written statement if you're tonight before you would leave here.
Okay.
Is that acceptable?
Yes.
Why don't we have it in writing before we take any action?
All right,
That's correct.
Yeah.
we'll take 1 minute. Can you please write that? Give us an extension.
We will recess for a couple minutes to allow
Well,
that.
can
We
we,
have a form we can have
You
them
have a form?
sign.
Where is
can
the
we
form?
make clear,
I
Mr.?
can print it in 2 minutes.
Please get
Okay,
it.
Please
Can we
do it.
explain what we're talking about when we say deadline and last night?
Yes.
Yes. If I will say this, if in fact you're willing to give this board an extension until next Wednesday night,
It's just next Wednesday.
it's next Wednesday, even though we will be meeting on Tuesday, we need that extra day. What I would suggest to this board, and I would highly recommend to this board, is if their board is willing, I would make a motion to table the action on this until next Tuesday night. And for the reason, one, it gives this board the opportunity to review and to have clarified information that has been provided to us by staff, and also to weigh all of the comments that have been made by this community. And I think when we have that kind of information, this board can make a much better decision than to make it tonight with this where it is right now. But we cannot do that. I would have to make a different motion tonight if you were unwilling to do the extension. But at this point, if you're willing to sign that, then I would like to make a motion before this board to table it until next Wednesday, even though we would meet Tuesday, to take into consideration receiving clarification information from staff and to weigh heavily the information that we've received from our community.
And yes, we're willing to do that.
I think we also heard testimony this evening that some members of the community felt that there was not sufficient time to comment on it because of the non-publication of the minutes of the Planning Commission meeting. So by allowing another week, that would give people an opportunity who have been here tonight to weigh this information and give folks another week to digest information if they would like to be here next week to add further comment. So as soon as Nick returns with said waiver paper,
At least that would be a motion I would put on the floor. I don't know if it will be seconded and endorsed by this board, but that is my thinking and suggestion and recommendation at this point, Mr. Chairman.
okay, can you make it that upon signature of the extension
that.
papers that we would table the motion? Can you make that?
I can do that. Mr. Chairman, upon receipt of the agreement by Mr. Fisher, who is the official, who can speak on behalf of the applicant's signature, extending the consideration on the action on the final land development plan for Colonial Ingalls Road until Wednesday, August the 14th, 2019, that this motion be tabled until Tuesday, August the 13th, 2019.
I have a question.
What's that, Mr. Judd?
I want to know, with the timing and the deadline, why the delay would only be 1 week.
I'm giving 1 week for us to make our final consideration based on weighing the information that we've heard from our public. Give them an opportunity this week if they want to write comments or submit them in additional for us to consider. And also for any further clarification, we've heard at least one clarification from staff. There may be other questions that will arise that need to be clarified, that I'd like the opportunity to hear that before I make my final decision.
Would it be,
And we're having discussion, we don't even have a second on the motion.
well,
Well,
whenever
yeah.
whenever it's appropriate to have discussion?
Yeah. So just to clarify, the motion did include upon signature of the document, correct?
Exactly. And
Okay,
that's
so
what
there
we're
is a
waiting
motion
for.
on the floor. Is there a second to table upon signature of the extension document? Is there a second? Okay. There is no second to that motion.
Okay, then-
Would anybody then consider another motion?
Well, what I want to know is, can we take more time to where, unless this is not even a possibility, it sounds like there were wires mixed as far as the various parties getting together and talking. Can we allow enough time for that
Well, if you wish to make a motion.
legally?
I like 1 week, I don't want a further extension. I think the board, I think we need to do our due diligence. We need to make a good decision, but I don't want to make it just on what I've heard, because this is important information we're getting from our community. For me, there's still some questions of clarification from our staff, and I think that's imperative upon us to do our job for our community.
In any event, the motion did not have a second.
Right.
So that takes us back to the issue at hand, which is whether or not we will approve the final land development plan, and specifically the waiver requests. So we need a motion to either approve or deny the plan and the waiver requests.
Why don't we make a motion, is it appropriate to make a motion to delay more than 1 week?
You can make the
We
motion.
we
if there's a
certainly
second
can
to
do
it.
that, and I don't mind. I would prefer to bring it to closure, especially because we have those variances that have to be considered. And if you're going to, well, either way, if you're going to deny it, you still have those ordinances or the waivers that you have to be able to defend. And so that's why I would like further clarification on that before I would make a motion to go either way, either approval or denial.
Well, let's try this, see if there's any support for this. I would make a motion that we delay, table. Our next meeting is a workshop meeting. Our next business meeting is the week after that.
What's the motion?
The
Yeah.
motion would be to delay for 2 weeks.
Would that be acceptable to the developer?
That way, we have what we need, and if there's any desire to work amongst the parties, then we have, at least have a better chance at that than 1 week would allow.
Yes, we'd be willing to do 2 weeks.
Then I make the motion as stated, is that, and then,
You want to table it for 2 weeks, which would be 2 Wednesdays.
Correct.
Right, and it needs to be the 2 weeks with the Wednesday as the date because of meeting on Tuesday. Mr. Fisher, would that be agreeable to you?
Yes,
Again, you're representing your client.
yes.
Then, Amanda, we need to change the, oh, you didn't put the date.
You didn't put the date down yet?
Okay. I mean, personally, I don't mind waiting 2 weeks, but I would have preferred just to bring it to closure next week. I think for all concerned, it's in our best interest, but I'm certainly willing to yield to 2 weeks.
Well,
So therefore,
Mr. Judd has made a motion
I'll second the motion.
to delay for 2 weeks upon signature by the developer, and you have made a second. Is there any other board member comments or questions about this?
I would, just to clarify, then that would, the board can do what it's got to do. If the parties and the residents and the parties involved want to talk, they can talk. And otherwise, when the date comes around, we vote.
Comment is, what are we expecting? These more people to come in with more concerns, or bring these people back and repeat what they've already told us? I'm not sure. I mean,
I heard that there was attempts to speak, the residents and the gentleman here, that there were attempts at communication. This simply allows, some attempts, simply allows an opportunity to work some things out, if that's possible.
would it be an idea to have the meeting that never happened happen between the Swan and yourself?
That's up to them. That's up to them.
My question is, what's going to change in that meeting? You've submitted the plan. We know that you have to make a write-in. Your testimony was here tonight. We have all the plans. And what could change if you met with them on your plan?
I honestly don't know. That would be hashed out during the meeting if any, and what changes would be possible.
Because my main concern is in and out, and I personally don't think that's going to change.
Well, actually, I have a problem with every one of these waivers. And is the plan viable without these waivers?
I believe we can make accommodations without the waivers. We'd be obviously preferred to have the waivers, as I think it makes a nicer overall plan.
Well, we have a motion and a second on the floor.
Mr. Chairman, I'll call for the question on the motion.
And this, just to be clear, this is to, with approval from the developer, to delay for 2 weeks. Maybe we should just do a roll call vote on this.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, I have a question. I can't understand whether, if public comment is going to be the next time you meet to consider this,
Oh, yes.
not just in writing.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yo, every public meeting of the Board of Supervisors, when there is an item on the agenda, the public has an opportunity. So, yes, absolutely. Okay. Can we have a roll call, please?
Starting with,
Mrs. Lindsay,
No.
Mr. Zumis,
no.
Mr. Judd,
Yes.
Mr. Chrisman,
Yes?
Mr. Henry.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Now we're back.
Well,
we're back to zero.
that puts us back to ground zero. Would anybody like to make any other motion?
I make a motion that we deny the action on a final land development plan for Colonial Road and Linglestown Road.
Okay.
That's rather simple.
I don't.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
It has been moved and second that we deny the final land development plan for Colonial and Linglestown Road. Any additional questions or comments from the board? Okay, then a roll call vote on that, please.
Mrs. Lindsay,
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Zumis,
Aye.
Mr. Judd,
Aye.
Mr. Chrisman,
No.
Mr. Henry.
Aye. Okay, the plan is denied. And I just lost the remaining agenda. So, okay, that then takes us, and I just accidentally turned my agenda off. That now takes us to improvement guarantees, development agreements, and plan reaffirmations. Anybody have, there they are up on the screen. Anybody have any questions or comments relative to the improvement guarantees?
Mr. Gutschall, is there anything unusual? I did not see any. I'm just asking for clarification.
No, Mr. Crispin, there are not. Nope.
And, okay, and Mr. Chairman, I'm going to break this into two motions
Okay.
because of Ms. Lindsay. Mr. Chairman, I'll move the improvement guarantees, beginning with the UPMC, the 4830 Londonderry Road, SWMP, Autumn Oaks, 6405 Flank Drive, 725 Hampton, 1145 Willoughby, Stray Winds Farm. I will move approval for those as presented.
Okay, we have approval of those improvement guarantees. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. What about the Shadebrook Phase 2 extension letter of credit?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move approval of the Shadebrook Phase 2 extension as a separate motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay?
Mr. Chairman, I have to recuse myself because of personal issues.
Okay, thank you. So we have 4 ayes and 1 abstention. So that is approved. Payment of bills for Lower Paxton Township and the Lower Paxton Township Authority, Madam Treasurer.
Before I pay the bills, I was thinking tomorrow's Friday. Tomorrow's only Thursday. So the concert will not be tomorrow night. It will be Friday night at 7 o'clock. We are a little confused because it's Wednesday.
Yeah.
On that note, I'd like to pay the bills of Lower Paxton Township and Lower Paxton Township Authority.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, any other announcements? The next meeting of the Lower Paxton Township Board of Supervisors will be a workshop meeting on Tuesday, August 13th at 7 p.m. right here in this room. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.